courtyard and also the courtyard on the other end. When this was a hotel, as it was built, these were sunken gardens. So you went out these doors and downstairs into a sunken garden. All right, and then these walls didn't exist. This room went all the way to the end of the building. So if you were to look, if you were to go outside, can we all step outside for a minute? I didn't anticipate holding up the roof, the ceiling. But then you see these arches and you think, where in the heck were those? Well, this is the space where the arches were. And so this formed a sort of a natural part of it was all one room, but it split up the space from the lobby to where you checked in. And you checked in over here. And this, I'll show you some plans. We don't have any photographs. Can you believe that when they remodeled this building in the 70s, no one photographed anything? So we have no photographs of what the lobby originally looked like when it was built. But there was this, I do have plans that showed the original stairwell where you got up to the other floors. And so this was all, you have to envision this is all one giant room. So all the way to the street. So when I show you those photographs now, you can kind of get a better idea of where you are. And then very early on, probably definitely before 1900, they had filled in on this side the courtyard. They had filled that in and made that the check-in desk over here on this corner. So you'll see early photographs of, and I'll explain all that to you too. And then later on in the 1902 remodeling, and this hotel was always being worked on. This area here, as we come out here. So this is how we know about the time periods of the photographs, because by 1902 they have remodeled, and so all these windows were knocked out and rebuilt. And here, which you can see the line here, you see a little bit of the original paint color here.
Right.
And so they moved and they expanded the lobby into this space. And also it functioned as extra seating for the hotel, or the hotel restaurant, which was called the Peacock Room, because it was painted peacock blue. And then on the other side of the other sunken garden on this side was they expanded the restaurant, so they expanded in there too with another skylight over that room. So as we come through, we're going to go and have our slide presentation. You'll get to see the photographs. So
Yes,
I'll take my jacket off if I may.
Feel free.
And if you noticed, the original building was originally conceived as a 3-story building. So you have first, second, and third floors. And now if you look at the building, it is a 4th floor. And I'll explain all that to you in another slide. But this is the ellipse that was originally designed to be on the front of the building. It would have softened the facade of the building. But it's one of those things, we have the original plans, and we have where probably Mr. Flagler had decided he'd spent enough money and exited out. But the foundations, if you were to go out in front of the building and you see the semicircular wall, that was the original foundation wall, as it was originally conceived. There's an early view, probably about 1887, as the towers were still being completed. The Pasta Leon is almost ready to open, and the Casa Monica Hotel on the left, and you can see how it was originally designed. It was a very Moorish style building. You see the Moorish arches along the facade. Okay, and so this is just before the building was complete. By the way, it took 6 months to build the original walls of the hotel, and it took a year to open, so a year to completion. All right, here's both, this is now the towers are complete, and again, just wanted to point out is the building was originally designed 1, 2, 3 stories, and look how tall the spires look without the 4th floor in here. But the reason why it was had a 4th story is because this hotel was built right at that cusp when big hotels had the bathrooms down the hall, and so each individual room, if you were staying rooms, and so they lost a lot of hotel rooms, so they had to go up another story here, and I will show you that. So here's an early, very grainy view of Ponce de Leon, very shortly after it opened. You see most of these are horse and carriages. The automobile hadn't been around that much by 1888. Here's another view of Ponce de Leon.
It does look great.
And I think it's so funny, these poles with the flags across the front. See the flags waving here? Okay, what was the inspiration for these buildings? When Henry Flagler came to visit, the Villa Zarega was already built, and it was built of poured concrete. And Henry Flagler thought that that was a wonderful building material and very appropriate for Florida. Franklin Smith was an amateur architect. He did architecture for his own pleasure. And so when he built the Villa Zarega, to build with poured concrete was a really relatively new thing. And no major building to that point had been built in poured concrete. So Henry Flagler instructed his two young architects, Carrere and Hastings, John Carrere and Thomas Hastings, who were only in their 20s, 24 and 25, when they, and both of them were graduates of the École des Beaux-Arts in France. He instructed these two young men that that's how he wanted his buildings to be built, is in poured concrete. And and it's not always what you know, but who you know, and how these two young architects probably got this very plum commission is that Thomas Hastings' father was the minister of the Presbyterian church that Henry Flagler attended. So here's the Alcazar Hotel shortly after completion, and you see the giant vase probably belonging to this establishment out showing people that what our wares are for sale out here. And a lot of things like the awnings in the windows, and I'll show you some other photographs of that. This is the courtyard, still when it's only 3 stories, and you see the scuppers from the roof to empty here. This always, the very front here, always was 4 stories. One of the big losses of having to add the 4th floor was we lost the rooftop gardens, because this is how it was designed originally to be like. This was a concept drawing, how the rooftop gardens were supposed to be. And if I can scroll this up without getting into the next slide, this image here, whoops. This image here, and that little square thing just at the top where you see the lady's dress. That is the, you can't see it because I don't have the full view of it, but that is the rooftop gardens off the solariums at the Ponce de Leon. But they've added this, so the scuppers originally, when you looked at the over photographs, would have been right here about the level of where these windows are. And now they've added, and the wall stopped originally right here. They added this, and so the ceiling is actually right at the bottom of this balustrade that goes around now.
What's a scupper?
Scupper are the drain pipes.
Okay.
The drain. Okay. So this is where you first enter the courtyard, and look how the fountain looked. I think that's really interesting. And also, look at this. This is the wooden floor that went all the way around the loggia. So this, and the sign here is advertising Greenleaf and Crosby, jewelers. And Greenleaf and Crosby, well, I'm assuming it's still in business. It was up until very recently. It's in Palm Beach on Worth Avenue. And when people traveled in the 19th century, they didn't go and buy junk stores and get junk souvenirs. They wanted really something nice to bring home. So the jewelry stores along the Alcazar colonnade was really quite something. This is another thing showing the wares that were for sale at Greenleaf and Crosby. This is a colorized photograph. Of course, they didn't have color photography then, but a lot of times photographers would kind of indicate what colors the painters should try to print, or how they should, what colors they should use. Okay, remember I was talking, oh, here's another view. Again, here they changed the fountain, so before it was a little bit over to the side this way, now we have it shooting straight up. And look at our light systems that we just had replaced. They had taken the originals off the building in the 1970s. And unfortunately, I went to the Antiques Roadshow when it came to Jacksonville, and someone had some of the original light fixtures. And there was nothing wrong with them. It's just that I guess they figured in 1970 they looked a little old-fashioned and probably got a little bit rusty, and instead of trying to restore them, they took them off the building. So we just spent a fortune having them all remade and put around the courtyard just recently. So, in the 1970s, historic preservation left a lot to be desired. Here is the original lobby as it was conceived by Curator and Hastings. This is an original line drawing. And you can kind of see what the staircase would have looked like going up. And this has been here. There was a niche here for a piece of statuary or something. So anyway, then our next slide here, this is a close-up of the next slide that I'm going to show you, but it shows you the wall-to-wall carpeting, the spittoon, there's the wicker furniture, which was all sort of gave it a very homey feel. The Consulate was a very grand hotel, but the Alcazar was meant to be a much more comfortable hotel. This is, again, the lobby, but this is looking, okay, this is in our lobby today. If you were to stand at the statue and look to your right, if you're facing the building, this is the wall that you see blocked off here. So, and then beyond this wall is that where we were standing in that loggia. And on the other side, which is where the original lobby check-in is, would have been back beyond here and filled in. So you see this arch here has been opened up, which would have been a window originally. And then this is the new windows going all the way down the arcade. This is the front desk. This is again the west courtyard, and you see the skylight up above. And this hotel was really all about light, and you have to think it was really to cater all these northern visitors who were trying to escape really harsh winters and to come here for 3 months out of the year. And this hotel was only open for 3 months out of the year. It was they were seeking warmth and sunshine, as we all do today. This is the original ladies' parlor. This is a painting I think is at the Cummer now. I'm not really positive. This is possibly on Landing, and I think this is now at the Cummer Museum of Art. But this was originally installed in the ladies' parlor. This is again a colorized stereopticon view. This is just one half of it, and it shows the original chandeliers. And this is now our city commission room. So if anyone's been to a city commission meeting, you're in this room. And I like the draperies and things that you see along the sides here. Again, even though you have a lot of this very elegant furniture, by the 1880s, 1890s, it was very fashionable to bring in a rocking chair and wicker furniture. And that was de rigueur for the time period. A later remodeling of the ladies' parlor. Again, the big painting is gone. It has some smaller paintings. They've taken out the big chandeliers to give it a much more open feel. It could be too, and we don't know this. I doubt it, because you can see this doesn't look to be reworked. A lot of times photographers will take out the chandeliers so that you get an unobstructed view, but this doesn't look like it's been reworked, so I think it may have already taken out the chandeliers by that time.
Do you think that the color is true? Would the green have actually been that bright a jade?
It is very possible. The photographers, as I said, would have indicated the colors, and it might not be exactly true, but you know, we're used to seeing black and white photographs of these interiors. They were bright. They were brilliant. The whole idea of a 19th century interior was to have a reflective quality, because even though this building, this area right here with this arch, that's where you would come up from the stairs that we just passed through. Okay, and this is the this area back here is the lounge, and then this is taken from the that view was taken from the gymnasium. And this is again that same space, going looking up above, and you see the skylight up above that, which is where our malachite urn is. And then this is a price guide on how much it would cost to take the baths here at the Alcazar Hotel. And what's interesting is I've done a little calculation, and I don't know how accurate it is, but when you consider the time period that the average income was $500 a year. When you divide that by 52 weeks in a year, that works out to be about $9.62 a week. Now, look at the price of this ticket package, $10. Poor people didn't travel in the 19th century. Middle class very seldom stayed at places like this because it was too expensive. And you certainly couldn't afford that. So if you think that the hotel rooms were $3.50, and it would have cost you roughly $3.50, so that would have been equivalent in today's terms of staying in a hotel. So I took the average of, they said that the average income in America now is about $46,000 a year. And if you took that and divided that to 52 weeks in a year, it works out to be about $885. And then you take that and divide that into a third of what it would have cost to have stayed here. That's $297 a night. So this was a very expensive place to stay. Even though they tell you it was only $350, and it sounds cheap to us, $350 was a hefty chunk of change. Just to get it in perspective. This is the gymnasium, which is now our ceramics gallery. And I love this with the punching bag here thing, and sort of early novelist equipment. And it's designed to be sort of like a Roman spa, and so you see this very Roman-looking bench. I think that's kind of cool. Okay, this is on the opposite end of the reception room. This is the lounge, and this must be close to the closing for the season, because already we have the Easter lilies scattered around. And then a lot of this hotel furniture was scattered when they sold the hotel. And see this little table here? I had one of those. Alright. So this is another view of that same space. And what I think is amusing is this gentleman who's wrapped up like a mummy on the lounge, taking the treatment there. Oops. So this is the massage room, and of course they would weigh you. And people were very conscious of weight in the 19th century, just as they are today. And I just recently went to Chicago and went to the Gloucester House Museum. Has anyone ever been there? It was one of the last houses designed by Harry Hobson Richardson, and his portrait is in the hallway. You would see our malachite urn. So this is when you come up the stairs from this direction, as we're coming up this walkway. You walk into this little space, which is hard to recognize because these walls have been removed. And we have the little vitrines, the little display cases in each corner now, and with the little lady sitting on top. But this was originally the cold plunge room. And the cold plunge actually still exists underneath this floor. So if you were to, the wall actually ends here, but the cold plunge goes beyond here. So this was like you can see the steps going up to a ledge here. And then if you were to go back beyond this wall, there was another ledge where people could sit after they've gotten too cold and wanted to come out of it. The steam bathroom. And we have, one of the things I want to do is reinstall this screen, which we had up in storage. It's a brass screen. No, it's not Tiffany. It's just actually the plate glass was always just a plate glass, but the screen was in front of it. It's just like a black, brass screen. Unfortunately, it's got some pieces missing from it, but those can be recast. This is one of my favorite rooms. It looks like the deck of an ocean liner.
Yeah.
This was the dry heat. Again, one of these ubiquitous tables that were used all over this building.
Where is that now?
This is where, when you came up the stairs and you saw the dining room set up with the Lord and Lady Grantham greeting you, this was that room.
Oh, wow.
All right, so if you were to exit the, and enter the casino area or the swimming pool area, and you were coming down these stairs from where the Malachite is, where we just came down here just recently, just to come here, this was the entrance to the casino. It's very homey with the draperies, with the pattern,
So there was a real casino here?
Casino in the 19th century didn't mean a
Okay.
gambling casino. It was
Okay.
a place of entertainment and health and fitness. That's where people went to dances, was at the casino. All right, here's an early view of the swimming pool. This must have been shortly after it first opened. And how do I know that? If you were to walk along here, there is no thing to keep you from falling down. So that was added very early on, but this is before that was added. Okay, this is the gondola. This was a very popular thing that they would do, was to have an orchestra playing on the gondola and people dancing all around. And one of the things I love about this photograph, and I'm afraid now we're trying to blow it up. Well, this is a gas light, one of the few gas lights that they had. I guess they were afraid of mixing the electric and the water. But these are gas, and you can't tell from this photograph, these are all mirrored panels to reflect the light. So at nighttime, it would have been a much more brilliant light coming in. And of course, that's when the skylight still existed. And unfortunately, which is really weird, we just discovered that these walls, which we had always known were natural, they were natural up until the 1960s. At some point, when they redid this building, they painted all these walls, which was just opposite, because all of this that you see here was white paint to keep the water sealed, to seal the swimming pool, and all this part up above was left natural, and unfortunately, it got painted very recently. This is another view, very early view of the, but now we have the canvas thing to keep people from falling in. And Chinese lanterns, they were very popular as decoration. You see it here and here. And they were still popular, and I'll show you some photographs. This is another very early view of the swimming pool. And why I showed this is because you can see the grandstand, which if you leave when you leave this afternoon or leave after this and go out here, you'll see the impression of where the grandstand used to be right in front of this wall, on the other side of this wall. And then up above, if you look up, you'll see grommets. And this is where these canvas awnings were. And the reason they were here is because they would set up a temporary theater, and because this is a skylight, they wanted to darken for like magic lantern shows and things like that. They would want to darken that space. So this is why that is there. This is obviously from the 1920s. We see this young lady with a cloche hat on. So we know this is from the 1920s. By the way, another earlier photograph showed a giant chandelier here. By the 1920s, that chandelier is gone and in the wall. Another view. Cool. And this young man standing on top of the shoulders of another. And by the way, these little things here were showers. And so I was just listening to the thing on NPR where still in Germany today, when you go to a swimming pool, you shower before you get in and when you get out. And that was the same concept here. And you see, again, the Japanese lanterns swinging out over the thing. But this is, you can can see how low the water is. It's either just being filled up or being drained. And here's once the pool is drained. This is a photograph, again, judging by the length of the skirt, probably from the 1920s. But they were doing this very early on, from the beginning of the hotel. They would drain the pool, bring in grass and flowers and palm trees, and have garden teas.
Oh,
And very often, my grandmother was the entertainment for those little events. She used to make fun of herself because she was a spoiled, rotten brat and had taken ballet from the very time she was very little, and she would dance at the drop of a hat. So this is another one of the things, again, where they cut the palm trees and brought them in.
Well, how often did they fill the pool?
I think it was just whenever it became necessary to drain it or to fill it back up.
I mean, it wasn't once a month or anything?
I don't know, I've never seen any records. We do have quite a bit of early things that were left in the hotel about chlorination, when chlorination came out in the 1920s and things like that. So we do know that they were doing things, but how often they drained the pool. I think it was really just as the needs of the space was needed, you know, for any.
Excuse me, where did all that water go?
It was drained, pumped out, and probably into Maria Sanchez Creek, which this building was built on Maria Sanchez Creek. They filled it in to build the hotel. And actually, what's interesting about its construction too is that because it was so swampy and so wet, if you were to dig down, you'd find great big palm logs, so that it rested and basically is floating on these big palm logs. Okay, this is another image from the 1920s for a party. And now as we go up to the ballroom, we see it decorated for a party. To me, it looks like a fire waiting to happen. But they would bring in all the palm trees and palm fronds and decorate for an event. The photographs are a little distorted. You see these two people here talking. And then this is the corner that would have been turned into a theater that we're standing in right here. They could remove it, and it could just be this open space as part of the ballroom. But as we see in the next one, it could be closed off and a little theater set up at this corner of the ballroom. And then you see the rounded rooms at the end of the ballroom set up for people to take an afternoon tea or just to rest and relax and enjoy, soak up the sun. And these chairs here, you see right here, we just recently acquired these two almost identical chairs, whether they see the material. All right, in about the 1890s, originally Franklin Smith built, this is the Casa Monica Hotel right here. When he built the Casa Monica, that very same year he went bankrupt, and Henry Flagler bought him out, bought the Casa Monica and renamed it the Cordova. And it functioned as its own hotel for a while, the Cordova Hotel, but it wasn't surviving on its own. So what they did is they annexed it to the Alcazar Hotel, became the Alcazar Annex, and so this was a walkway built to the Cordova Hotel. And the joke was, and I think a lot of you have been here, heard this talk before, they would check into the Alcazar and wake up in the Casa Monica Hotel, or the Cordova. So that was a running joke among the guests. But if you go out on the outside of the building, you see the scar where this was attached. And because we complain about the streets flooding, well, they are always flooded. So now we're looking down, this is Granada Street looking directly down into the Ponce de Leon Hotel. And unfortunately, you can't see, you see the little shop windows here where they've been built out, like little glass boxes here. But off here to the right would have been the the drive and everything to where you checked in. It had a really beautiful bronze and glass awning that unfortunately no one has ever taken a picture of. And so that concludes this section of the presentation. So does anyone have any questions?
Go
No.
on to the next 160.
Right, exactly. And actually, we have, what time do we have? Do we have more time?
It's 10:42.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll just go down to this next slide. So this is, we're starting the Lightner era, and we'll go as far as Mr. Lightner's home in Chicago. And this is where the Lightner Museum actually begins. This is Mr. Lightner's home in Chicago. This is the former Brega Mansion. The Bregas were a very prominent family, and they built this magnificent mansion on South Michigan Avenue in Chicago, and I just was recently there. And they tore it down, they never built anything. It is now a vacant parking lot since its inception. And this is one of the things I try to get through to people in this town. Every time you impose a business in a residential neighborhood, it is the downfall of the neighborhood. And Mr. Lightner was guilty of that himself. And in another slide, let me see, just to drop on that, he built this printing press off to the side. And so whenever you start doing that, it ruins the neighborhood. Mr. Lightner was just as guilty as everybody else. And this was, again, the Brega Mansion, and then this was his other house that he owned. This was the Coley family home. And this is some views of the interior of the Brega Mansion. So this is Mr. Lightner's house. So we recognize this chandelier. This is over the ceramics gallery. And this actually came from the home of Kate Buckingham, as if anyone's familiar with Chicago, Buckingham Fountains. This is, if you're in the elevator lobby, this is our Simone and, I'm not Simone Care, but Othello recounting his tales to Desdemona. This is the French fleet at Kronstadt. This is the big clock in the entrance hall. These steins are up in storage, but we have them. This big perm is silver plate with the carnival glass bowls. That's up in storage. So it's fun to kind of look through there. So we have all this stairwell, by the way, in storage. We have all these pieces. So I could recreate that. They, when they tore the Brega Mansion down, Mr. Lightner had several, they took the blocks from the house, and actually a lot of the blocks are used. If you go in to see our Egyptian mummy today, what we've created for the Egyptian tomb is actually the blocks from the house. We have this inlaid chair up in storage. So it's kind of fun to go through this and see this. We have this, we have a, in the science wing, this pedestal now houses a Florida turkey. So this is the dining room of the Brega Mansion. Mr. Lightner here. And see all the cut glass. And these chairs were up until very recently being used by our city commission. And the table, and we have all those back there now in our floor room. And then this is a giant painting of the Arab encampment that we see here. And then we have, these windows are now in our director's office. Mr. Lightner probably added these to the house. They don't make any sense in this house. He probably tore them out of some building and decided this would be a great place to put them. But we have the urn, and we have all these pieces here. This is the big whiskey jug we have on display. Sans, it's stopper. But anyway, so that gives you a little insight into how the museum got started.